Hey, Nate, how are you?
How's it going, Tammy? That guy
Oh,
that runs the stream forgot to click a button, and we didn't
do
we didn't
the.
we didn't get the countdown.
I know. I'm like, What's missing tonight? Something's missing.
the
That's
30
okay.
seconds, the 30 seconds that we had
Right.
to take a deep breath. That's what we were missing. If anybody missed the 30 seconds, let us know. We'll make sure to
Right.
add it next time.
We'll add
Maybe
it
we'll do
next
it
time.
twice next time to make up for it.
There you go. Ooh, that would be fun. So, how has your weekend been? Was your weekend your 2 weekends,
Yeah, I
3 weekends, or is it two?
let's see. Well, yeah, it's been two. Did we? I don't even remember anymore.
I
No,
know.
we moved the one 2 weeks ago, and then it's been 2 weeks since the last one.
Yes.
So
Okay.
yeah, okay, we're on like a normal schedule. Let's see. I'm trying to think. 2 weeks ago, what did I do? It's been kind of a crazy couple of weeks. I'm still dealing with stuff with my shoulder, but it's getting better,
That's
and
good.
I'm glad about that. I was able to get into the garage and not do a Jeep project exactly, but something for the Cadillac. We I
Your
volunteer.
toe pig.
Yeah, right. I volunteer for my daughter's soccer club on their board that organizes the club, and we did a fundraiser of donuts, right? And the club as a whole sold like 488 boxes of donuts.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
lot of donuts.
The problem is the place that makes the donuts, it's like a local vendor. They're larger than just local anymore, but I think they started here in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Um, but they don't deliver. So we had to move
Oh,
488 boxes of donuts
fun.
about I don't know 30 miles or so. So I built. We did this 2 years ago, and the problem was boxes. Donuts come in these not soft sided, but they're not sturdy
Right.
boxes, right? So if you stack them too high, the ones on the bottom get kind of crushed, and that was kind of a problem because we had a couple boxes that got smushed, and we didn't have much to do with it other than sorry, your donuts got smushed. They weren't smushed, but the boxes were a little crushed, and people didn't like that. So this time, I decided I was going to take the Cadillac and build. Now, anyone who's not familiar, I have a Cadillac Escalade ESV. It's an '08, almost identical to a Suburban. So if you know what a Suburban looks like, you know what I've got. In the back, the rearmost seats come out, and the middle seats fold down or tumble forward. So what I did was I folded the middle row down, took the rear ones out, and I took a 4x8 piece of particle plywood, chipboard, whatever you call that, and I made a platform in the back of the Cadillac. And now I can stack donuts underneath the platform and on top of the platform. So we didn't get any smushed
There you go.
donuts. And after I got it built, I'm looking at it. I'm like, I just built myself a place to sleep when I'm camping and didn't even realize it.
There you go.
So yeah, that's the only reason it's relevant to this show.
Well, I have a new roommate. My youngest son, I went to Maryland to get him, and he's moved out here to Wyoming. And he's looking for a job, and hopefully he'll go to college this fall. But it's we're smushed in my little apartment right now till we figure out what we're gonna do. If he's gonna stay and go to the University of Wyoming or Colorado or whatever. So we've been doing that. So I moved him. We're still moving TNT Customs, and I got a surprise request to be on the Jeep Talk Show podcast. So I
Who are
recorded.
they? Who are they,
Yeah.
Tammy? I
Well,
don't
it's
even know what you're
just
talking about.
this little podcast that I was fired from. Anyway, you guys can. It should be out on Thursday. Episode 992. You can listen to me. I promote our um, podcast here, and I talk about where I work and just my little adventure the past couple years. So episode
So
992.
So did you plug the Off-Road Insiders podcast every chance you had?
I did. I actually they do guest hosts on a couple of they have 4 shows a week, but I suggested they contact you, and they said they did. So um, if you want, you can be on the
Yeah,
talk show, but we'll
I'll have to think it over.
I did it for my own personal reasons because I never really got to say goodbye and let folks
Hmm.
know where I am. And hopefully y'all come over here and listen to Nate and I talk about off road.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of in a lot of ways. So I forget if we talked about this on our very first show or not, but there were two shows that got me into the idea of creating stuff, and the Jeep Talk show was one of them.
Hmm.
So I owe a little bit to Tony, I guess. Maybe not really owe, but he gave me a chance to like contribute to the show, and that gave me a
Right.
taste of it. And then he had let me co-host for a bit, and that gave me another taste of it. So, you know, um, yeah, I
I did it to just say, hey, the off road insiders is here, and this is why I left.
yeah. Well, hopefully we
So
pick up some listeners or viewers.
yep.
Are any of them here tonight? If you're here, pipe up in the chat. I
Yeah,
mean,
I did share that we record live and you can chat live with
yeah.
us. So hopefully we'll see some of them. I see there are comments in there I've been missing. I was on the banners. I wanted to put up my banner.
Oh,
The
yeah.
banner.
Yeah, yeah. Videos and I were talking about raised platforms in the back of vehicles. So he doesn't like them because he can't sit up.
Oh, I
He
know
likes to be able to sit up in his tent, which makes sense, right? Even just like getting
yeah.
changed in a tent, you need some room. You can't just do it laying down. If you don't have a lot of room to sit up or stand up, then it's hard to do.
I've slept in my Jeep. I don't have a raised platform. But I can sit up in it where when you sleep just in the regular part without doing it raised.
You know, videos brought up a really good point just now in chat.
Oh yeah, if it hasn't aired. Oh duh.
Duh, they're not here tonight. Maybe they'll be here
I,
next time.
I'm blonde. Yeah.
Well, I said the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Duh.
in my brain. The moment it's recorded, it's in the
Right.
past. So
Right.
yeah, you're right. It hasn't aired yet. Nobody would know yet.
Duh.
Anyway, all right. So I wanted to. We say we're a community podcast, and we don't focus on the community a whole lot. So I thought we should
Oh,
start doing
yes,
that
we need
more.
to. Yes.
So first of all, a quick plug. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you like what you're hearing, that helps us know, what we're doing right and that people like it. And of course, leave us a review. I don't think we've gotten any reviews yet, other than a couple comments on YouTube that have mainly been like Q&A stuff, not really reviews. So give us reviews. Let us know if you like what we're doing. If you hate what we're doing, if you think my hair is ugly, I can change that, right? If we're losing viewers over that, I'm willing to change. But yeah, if you want to reach out to us, do it at offroadinsiders@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram or go to offroadinsiders.com to find all the ways that you can get in touch with us. So there were two things that I noticed in the world of off-road content creators this past week or so, really. First of all, you know who Colt is? He's
No.
affiliated with Bleep and Jeep.
No. Is he a new guy?
Do you watch Bleep and Jeep at all?
I did a while back.
Yeah,
I
they're one
haven't
of
lately.
those channels that have been around forever,
Yeah.
and they really kind of like
I
he's
know.
almost like the example of how to like build a channel from scratch because
Right.
he really is kind of a success story. But another of other creators have collaborated with him and then moved into making their own channels. And
Correct.
Colt is one of them. Colt is a really fun guy. I think he seems like a fun guy. He competed in that Onyx Off-Road Build Challenge
Mhm.
that Dirt Lifestyle and Mischief Maker and Rudy's whatever off-road garage or whatever it is, they all competed. Was there another one? I think there was another one. I forget who it was. They competed on like a cheap truck build sort of thing. And Colt built an S10, an older, like an 80s era S10 pickup. And the thing got pretty cool. And the prize was they got to go on Ultimate Adventure, which is the four-wheel and off-road Ultimate Adventure that goes on every year. And Colt won. And he decided that he wants to spin off his own channel. So if you want to see Colt build things, check out Colt Builds It.
There you go.
on on YouTube, and I put a link to Colt Builds It in the description of today's show.
Now, some of the other guys on there have done that too, right? Didn't they spin off and do their own channels? I think
that's how Dirt Lifestyle got his start.
Yeah.
And I think there's another one. I forget his name. There was a guy with a yellow Cherokee. I forget who he was that spun off into his own channel.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently, if you want to get your start on YouTube, you should go collaborate with Bleep and Jeep because that seems to be how things goes. And the other thing I noticed was, are you familiar with Matt's Off Road Recovery?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Down in he's out of St. George, isn't he? Utah, I think.
Yep. Yep. Last year, he ran a thing called the Off Road Wrecker Games. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really watch that because I wasn't really sure what it was all about. But this year, he's just running the Off Road Games, right? And it's going to be hosted in Sand Hollow. And it's basically a challenge that he's cooked up, or him and his team have cooked up. And they invited a bunch of YouTubers. Now, I didn't get invited. I don't think you did either, did you, Tam?
No, I did not.
No, I guess we're not big enough for that.
No.
But one channel I do like to watch, Dirt Lifestyle, got invited. So did Mischief Maker. And I don't know who else. But just this week, Dirt Lifestyle and Mischief Maker both released videos regarding an update that they received on the off-road challenge. And that is that they are, like, they all thought they were coming there to compete. Well, Matt threw a wrench in.
Threw a wrench it? Oh,
they're not
good.
just going to there to compete. They're going there. They bring their trail rig, right? So, yes, they're competing, but they're being paired up with another YouTuber that is not an off-road channel.
Oh.
The other YouTuber gets to drive the rig, and the owner of the rig gets to spot and guide.
Oh,
This
that'll be
sounds amazing.
interesting. Yes, what a great idea. And here we have Polly with Polly's Pies
Yeah, right.
driving Mischief Makers.
Now, it seems like these folks, the other channels they picked out, are at least automotive related. They're just not
Oh,
off-road
okay.
related. So the one Dirt Lifestyle got paired up with, which is the one I linked in the
Let me go
description
look.
here, is he's a Formula One trainer. So he's like a go fast racer driver guy, right?
That's a good idea because he'll
Yeah.
probably want to go fast,
Right.
but
Right.
sometimes you can't when you're off-roading.
The yeah, right. Videos is in chat. Hey newbie, drive my $100,000 rig on a dangerous trail. That
Right.
is true. And the point that Dirt Lifestyle was trying to make in his video was there's a lot of YouTubers that were invited that once they found that out, backed out. He's like, I don't blame them. Right? It's like there's some risk here. So,
Mhm.
Hopefully that works out good. But I think it's going to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Because it isn't my rig they're driving.
Right. Right. We'll have to share once it gets closer. We'll just share more information, keep people updated. We could add that to our news.
So it's filming soon, I think.
Mhm.
Maybe as soon as March or April.
Mhm.
Because I don't want to confirm or deny too much yet, but I'll say that we're arranging a guest who happens to be part
I
of the
know.
challenge, and they have us waiting till May because they've got a few things going on, the off-road challenge included, and that's supposed to be wrapped up by the time May gets here. So it should be filming soon, March, April, something like that. So video says March 14th ish. Apparently he's paying closer attention than I am.
Yes.
But yeah, it
Well,
should be entertaining.
It'll be fun. Definitely. So tonight we're going to talk about tires and all the stuff that you'll need to know about tires when you go to buy new tires, whether you're going to go off-roading or overlanding, or even just tires on your off-road rig if you're a daily driver, because you got to kind of balance that daily driving with
Yeah,
the
I mean,
trails.
if there's one thing that I think automotive enthusiasts get up in arms about, maybe almost as much as the brand vehicle they're driving, is the tire they use.
Oh yes. Yes.
So yeah,
I
a lot
see it at
about
the shop a lot.
yeah, a lot of what we're going to talk about tonight will apply to things outside of the off-road world, but we're going to at least I'm going to take an off-road approach to it because that's what I know. I don't know much about racing. I don't know much about go fast cars. Of course, know about cars in general, but yeah. So don't look to me for racing tire advice, but off-road tires.
And like you gotta, like, I don't know, your rig is mainly just for off-roading.
Yeah, at this point, although I did drive it on the road yesterday for about 3 miles to get out to my dad's house and back.
Right.
It's like all the reasons I don't drive it on the road anymore came back pretty quick.
So
But
when you hear people go, "Oh, you need to get these sticky blah 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 tires or you need to use this brand." You got to remember a lot of these people trailer these vehicles
yeah,
and they are not driving them on the
yep,
pavement
yep. So
and makes
that's
a
a big
huge difference.
that's definitely a big deal. So first, I guess let's touch on types of tires.
Types.
There's
Yep.
like plain old street tires,
Right.
which you can certainly get a street tire in a size large enough for your truck or your SUV or your
Hmm.
off road rig. Um, but don't expect it to perform well off road. The JK that I had, the two door black one that I had, I took it wheeling one time on the factory, like the stock tires, which was just like the sport non off road tires, and it did okay. But
Right.
I had separated one of them from the bead, and another
Oh.
one had a sidewall puncture, so not good idea. Not a good idea to do.
And I
But
think the like certain certain not model but like the Rubicon Recon or the Toyota does the TRD, whatever. Sometimes these special, I can't think of the word, what they're called. These special vehicles will come with off road tires.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. So like the Rubicon, for example, or even the Wrangler Sport or Willys Wheeler or whatever, or the Tacoma or the Ford Bronco, right?
right.
You can get them with all-terrain tires or with beefier mud-terrain tires,
Right.
and that's sort of the next two classes I wanted to touch on, right? So there's all-terrain tires, and then there's mud-terrain tires, or some people call them max traction tires. I don't know if there's an
Hmm.
official. I believe mud-terrain is the official
I think so too.
MT, right? So if you look at a tire on the side, if it says AT, it's an all terrain. MT would be mud
Mud
terrain or
terrain.
maximum traction. And the big difference is if you look at the tread pattern, an all terrain will usually have a whole bunch of little designs in it with little voids that are designed to clear out easily. Now, um, this isn't like a a street tire, which will have much smaller grooves, right?
Hmm.
We're talking like half-inch to inch grooves between the lugs on the tire, right? And if you look at most of them will have like a almost octagonal like
Yep.
crosswork of tread pattern, right? And the idea is that you get traction, but you also get them. They'll also clear, right? So that's kind of the big deal with an all terrain. With certain terrains, it'll stick a little better. With other terrains, it'll clear a little better. That's why it's called an all terrain. They should be okay on the street, but they'll be a little noisier than your standard street tires. Sometimes in wet conditions, they're not as good as a street tire because they don't perform as well in wet conditions. It's just kind of the one drawback to an all terrain tire. Some of them are very good; they'll still be just fine in wet conditions. Um, the one thing I've never seen any tire perform well in that doesn't have studs is ice. So all
Yeah.
terrain except ice.
Unless you have the studded tires.
Exactly. If you have a tire with studs in it, that's a whole different case. So I wheeled for years on all terrains on my YJ. I had BF Goodrich all terrains on that thing, and
Yeah.
those things
That was my first tire I wheeled with.
they took a beating. I mean,
Yeah.
they really did. I abused the heck out of those things. They had all kinds of like gouges and cuts in the sidewalls,
Hmm.
and they never lost any air. So, got a lot of good things to say about that tire. So, how
My
was?
my my favorite were mud trains with Nexon. Um, that sidewall, and I know we're going to talk about sidewalls and all
Mhm.
that, but that sidewall was amazing, and it just gripped on the rocks on the sides, and really really missed it. I actually I wore them out. I had some issues with my suspension, and one of the tires got worn really bad where
Mm,
it was all wobbly.
yep.
And so this was right around COVID, and I was in the San Luis Valley in Colorado, and that's when it was hard to get anything. And it was
Yeah.
hard even to get it into. So I could not get my size of the Nexons in. So I had to go with a different tire. And so the tires I have now, the Falcon Wild Peaks, I was wheeling in Utah on that slick rock.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really slick, but that's what they
Yep.
call it. Anyway,
The Sandy Rock.
yeah, I was sliding, and
Oh, wow.
I wasn't with my Nexans. I didn't do that. I just felt, I don't know, the Nexans all around. I loved the tire, in all the terrains. It did well in the snow and the Rubicon Trail and Arizona. It just was it's that they do a different. I did a little interview with um, Nexon, one of their marketing guys, and he explained how they make them, the composite and the sidewalls, and they're a big racing tire, and they've
Yeah.
decided to get into the off-road business, and I feel like they do a really good job. I
Well, I
like them.
mean, I think we talked about this when I talked about King of the Hammers, but there were a number of
Hmm.
vehicles at King of the Hammers that did very well, didn't lose a tire all day, and they were on
Right.
Nexon tires.
So the sidewall was a really big thing. I
Yeah.
felt was really helpful.
Yeah, yeah, and
Um,
sidewall is definitely important.
yeah.
Usually with an all-terrain tire, the sidewall won't be quite as beefy. This isn't always true, but most of the time, an all-terrain tire will have a little bit less sidewall than a mud terrain.
Hmm.
Again, your mileage may vary. It depends on the tire manufacturer, but general rule of thumb, right? And with an MT, sorry, did you have more to say about all-terrains before we
No,
move on?
no, no. Go
Okay.
ahead.
With an MT, you'll basically have these larger, gnarlier lugs with a lot more space, a lot
Hmm.
more voids, they call them, in between the lugs. And again, the idea is that you get more grip, right? And you get a better ability to clean the tire out. So you ever
Hmm.
see when someone's like bogging through the mud
Oh yeah.
and the tires are just spinning and there's rooster tails flying everywhere? Well, that's not just for show. That's to keep those lugs as clean as possible. If you get an all-terrain into a similar situation, it won't clean as well and you won't get as good traction, right? Because if the lugs are all filled up with mud or snow, well, snow is a different case, but if it's all filled up with mud, then you don't get any traction, right? Because there's nothing to grip on, right? Because it's packed with mud. That those
And
edges,
it gets slicker
yeah, those
almost.
edges are what propel you forward. So the
Hmm.
larger voids means that if you spin the tires, they'll clear the mud out. It'll eject it. That's the word. That's the word they use for it.
And
Ejection.
then the mud flies, if you don't have mud flaps, flies all over your
Yep.
Jeep, on your
Flies
windshield, and
flies everywhere. Gives you that nice off road look that you keep on there for
mhm,
a week, and everybody else looking at you is like, "Ooh, your paint."
right. Like, oh well, it's a Jeep.
Yeah. Right. Right. So that's really the core difference. A lot of times, like I said, a mud terrain will be built with a slightly tougher carcass than an all terrain. Again, not always true. Like I said, those BF Goodrich all terrains held up like you wouldn't believe. Um, I had tires pressing into the sidewalls where I'm like, if I move another inch, I'm going to cut through the sidewall, and they always held up.
Hmm.
Like I learned to wheel on those things. They held up to me making all kinds of mistakes.
Yeah,
So
I've gone through three different types: BF Goodrich, the Nexans, and then these Wild Peaks. So,
I've had a number of brands. BF Goodrich.
mhm.
I only had the ATs from BF Goodrich. We've got those Goodyear Duratrax on the wife's
Oh
JKU at
yeah,
the moment. They're pretty good so
yeah, I
far.
use those too. Yeah.
We haven't really wheeled them much. In fact, I think she hasn't been wheeling on those at all, just because we haven't had a chance. But we put them on like a year and a half ago, and she's been going through surgery after surgery from her knee to her foot, so she hasn't been wheeling. Um, I've used, like I said, the BF Goodrich. Um, what was that other brand I used in the middle? When I first got my LJ, it had some no-name all-terrain on it, and I pretty quickly changed it to what were they? Were they Yokohamas?
I don't
I think they were
remember.
Yokohama Geolanders. If I was that what I had? I don't remember. Anyway, it was a cheaper brand tire. They worked pretty well, but then they were only 31s, and I wanted to go to 33s. So like 2 years in, I've got some Dixie Peck Extreme
Oh,
Countries, and that's what I've been wheeling on for the past like 5 years.
I heard a lot of
My
people say those are really good tires.
my God, are they beat up? but they hold well. I shouldn't say they hold air. They leak very slowly. But if you were to look
Uh-huh.
at these things, it's probably seeping through the rubber at this point. That's how beat up the sidewalls are on
Right.
these tires. But yeah, they still have tread. They've seen mostly trail at this point. I did commute to work in that Jeep for about a year with those tires. Um, but yeah, they are so beat. I actually made a short video. I think it might have been last year because I was trying to figure out where the leak was, and I'm looking at the sidewalls and how terrible they are. And it was just one of these like, look how terrible these tires are, and they're still
Mhm.
holding air. But yeah, they've been a pretty good tire. I'm trying to think what else I've used. I don't know. I want to try Nexons though. I think when I do the 1 tons, I'm gonna look into Nexon
Yeah,
for the
I feel
tires.
they're solid tires.
Yeah. So we touched on sidewall just a little bit. I want to talk a little bit more about materials and the sidewall as sort of a lump topic of the tire
Mhm.
carcass, right? Sidewall is a double-edged sword. The thicker the sidewall, the tougher the tire is going to be, but the less give the sidewall is going to have when you air down the tire. So there's a certain balance there. If you go like crazy tough sidewall, you may never cut a sidewall, but you still won't get as good traction as if you had a slightly more pliable sidewall, because when you air your tire down, it needs to be able to conform over stuff, right? And if your sidewall's too thick, then it doesn't conform, right?
And this is one of the things that Nexon was talking about. One of the things that they knew they needed to do for off-road tires, and they tested a bunch of different composites, and I can't remember specifically what they used. I'll have to try to find that video. And they, like, worked with all these different composites, and they feel like they got the best sidewall mixture that works great, where it grips and it's tough and durable.
Hmm.
I'll have to try to find that video link,
What you
if
have to
anyone
do
wants to
is
watch it.
you've got to reach out to Nexon and have them on the show.
I know, I gotta remember the guy's
Find
name too.
find your contact at Nexon, and we'll talk
Yes.
to them on the show, and we'll get
I and
brand new,
he
fresh info.
exactly, what a good idea. I can't
It's
believe I didn't
weird.
think of that. I know,
Weird
duh.
idea, Tammy.
Um, but I'm gonna find that video and I'll put it in the show notes, um, and then I'll reach out to Paul. Paul is his name.
There you go.
So
So in some cases, I mean, some tires actually have Kevlar in the sidewall, right? Like just as an example of the sort of things that tire companies are sometimes doing to get a little more durability out of that sidewall. The other thing I want to talk about was you talked about sticky tires, the compound that the tire is made out of, which is the sort of rubber it's made out of. The softer the rubber, the stickier it is. And that's when you hear people talk about competition stickies,
mhm,
it's this softer compound that's a little gummier, right? And it'll stick to things better. That's why they call it stickies. So if you're climbing over rocks and whatever, a competition compound sticky tire will get better traction on that kind of stuff. However, if you drive it like 10 miles on the road, that's an exaggeration. If you drive it on the road, it'll wear out like you wouldn't believe, because the compound wears so much faster. It
mhm.
wears out faster on the trail too, for that matter. But it's a trade-off, because on the trail you're putting so much fewer miles on that the trade-off is okay, right? So a lot of those race vehicles we see in King of the Hammers, they use race compound, sticky tires, that kind of thing. Um, what does video say here? It's YouTube has this little like, I'm
Oh,
gonna
you
go on a
you
rant here.
can't
It has this little emoji thing at the bottom corner. So like the the second half of the word in videos comment here is cut off. Let me look at it in StreamYard. That should show me what it says. Uh, oh, he says you don't want stickies to freeze while driving it. Oh, so does that mean you don't want them in cold temperatures? Is that it? Will they like crack or something? I've never owned any stickies because I've never had
yeah.
a reason, right? So but that brings up another point: radial versus. Why am I blanking on the other type? So there's radial tires, and then there's like a banded tire. I can't remember.
I just lost my notes.
Why am I not remembering the other type? Anyway, and this comes down to the direction that the bands in the carcass of the tire run. A radial, I believe, goes around the whole tire. The other type, why can't I remember the name? Goes like across the tire, right? And it's like concentric bands. That's why I've heard it called banded tires, but there's another name for it, and I'm blanking on the other name. Bias ply. Thank you, videos. The big difference there is a bias ply tire. Sometimes you get a tougher carcass out of it, but if they sit for any amount of time, they'll get like a flat spot on the tire. And once you start driving again, you'll get like this thump effect until the tire warms up and it like reforms to a circle. So something to keep in mind. I've heard a lot of people swear by bias plies for an off-road only rig, but most tires today are radials because it's just the way most tires are made.
And you can tell what kind of tire you have by those numbers. I always wondered what all those numbers were. And I did a little blog post because I'm like, I need to figure this out for myself. And the first letters are usually the type, which ours are typically LTs, which means light truck.
Right.
And then that first set of numbers is the tire width from sidewall to sidewall. For example, 255. That means 255 millimeters. And then the second set of numbers is the aspect ratio, which means the height is like 75 is equal to 75% of the tire's width. So the bigger the aspect ratio, the bigger the sidewalls. And then the R, which is radial, the construction of the tire, which means the layers run across the tire. And then the next number, which is depending on what kind you have, is the wheel size. For example, maybe 17, that sort of thing.
It's funny, and I can't be the only one that ever thought this, but I always thought the R meant rim size.
Oh,
because it always precedes
right
the
next
rim size,
to
right?
yes. Oh,
but I've learned over the years that is not true. In fact, the R means radial, and you will find a different letter there if it's not a radial.
And then you also want to be aware of the load range, which is how much weight they can carry. The C's are lighter, and a better ride than a D and E.
Load range will also usually impact that sidewall thickness and pliability. A higher load range will usually have a thicker sidewall. That's how they get the higher load range, a thicker carcass in general, right? So if you're towing or if you're in a pickup truck that's going to haul things, you want a higher load range. If you're driving a passenger vehicle or even an off-road vehicle, you may be able to get away with a lower load range just because you're not hauling things. But keep in mind, the lower load range might mean a thinner sidewall.
And then there is some other numbers on there, which
videos thought R meant rim size too.
I know.
So I don't feel so bad.
And there's a lot more information on those tires. And I remember when I was working at the Jeep shop, and the Jeep dealer, when people would order tires, there's like other numbers on there that I needed to put into the
I actually linked in our show notes. I looked up a quick article about these numbering mechanics. There's speed rating, I think, is also included. Yeah, so load index is one of them. That's so in their example, they have a P, which is for a passenger vehicle, 215, which is the width, /65, which is that aspect ratio of the height. R for radial, 15 is the wheel size, 89 is the speed rating. Now, that's not 89 miles per hour. Wait, no, 89 is the load index. And there's a chart that says, like, load index 89, let's see, has a load in pounds of 1279. Right? So I don't know why 89 equates 1279, but whatever. And that's per tire, of course. And then there's a speed rating on their example. It has an H, and there's another chart you have to reference that tells you what speed ratings are what. And an H is, let's see here. Where's H? Alphabets are hard. H is skipped in their list. That's why I can't find it. It goes from G to J. What a terrible example. Anyway. So I'll give you a speed rating of G because H isn't here is 56 miles
Right.
per hour, right? So obviously 56 miles per hour isn't what you're going to see on most passenger vehicles. Um, what? Wait, H is at the end. That's why. Speed rating H is 130. So they're not even in order.
And it can, I'm sure every tire has
Ah,
different markings and
yeah. And they go up to 186 miles per hour. Speed rating Y. Yes. Because why? Why do you need to go 186 miles per hour? Uh, anyway, you were close, videos. H is 130. Thank you. So yeah, they put the list in order of speed rating, not of the letter. I don't know why the letters aren't in order. Okay, so I have one comment to all this. There's two measurement types for tires. There's these, which is referred to as European or metric, even though it's not
Mhm.
just in Europe. Maybe that's where it originated. I don't know, but this is all in centimeters, right? So like the 215 width is 215 millimeters,
Mhm.
right? The 65 is the percentage of those millimeters across is the height of the sidewall, right? There's another way to measure tires, which is so much more common in the off-road world.
And it's easier to understand.
It's so much easier to understand. There's the diameter of the tire, say 35. Because when I'm talking to you, Tammy, do I say, what size tires do you have? And you go, oh, I've got P285,
Right.
75, R17s.
No, I'm
No,
like, I
because
got
no one
35s.
understands
I
that.
got 40s or
Nobody in their
37s.
brain can go, oh, that must be about the size of a
Right.
35. No, you need a calculator to do it. So I don't know why. I don't know why we have these two different ways to do it. People say that the metric way of measurement is more accurate for whatever reason. I don't understand why that is. There must be a reason. But
Well, it's interesting when you go to buy, like, oh, you call up a tire, I want 35s, and your 35s aren't really
exactly.
35s. They're just a little bit less. Or if it's company B, it could be just a little
Yeah,
bit more. It's not,
right. So
it's about.
if you've ever heard someone refer to their, 38-inch tire as a true 38,
Mhm.
it means that it's labeled as a 38 and it measures a 38, right?
Correct.
Why they don't all measure what the label on the side says, I
I
don't
don't
know.
I
Does it
don't
have
get
to
it
do
either.
with carcass and inflation size? I don't know, right? And why is that more accurate in the other measuring system? It shouldn't be. A measurement is a measurement. Why is it more accurate one way than the other
Right.
in centimeters or millimeters versus in
2
inches?
plus 2 is always 4.
Yeah.
It's math.
So
It should be, I don't
so
know.
if I told you I have a 35 by 1250 by 15, you're immediately going to know that it's about 35 inches tall,
Mhm.
which gives you a good idea how much clearance I should have underneath my Jeep. It's about 12 and a half inches wide, which gives you an idea of the contact patch of the tire. And I'm on a 15-inch rim,
Mhm.
which should give you like an idea in your head of how much sidewall my tire has because it's 35 inches tall and the wheel is only 15. So that should give you whatever the difference is in sidewall. Why? Why does it have to be complicated? I don't know.
And it's hard too when you're, like, ordering tires.
Yeah.
When they don't say, "Oh, this is 33 or 35," you gotta, like, "Okay, what does this mean?" And, you're trying to, it can get kinda complicated.
And to be honest, I've always had good luck with 15-inch wheels. When I'm hunting for tires, I look for a 33, 35, whatever. I
Mhm.
use like that other style, and I always find tires. For whatever reason, as soon as you get above a 15, you go like a 16 or a 17
Mhm.
inch, all of a sudden you can't find them
Right.
in the
Correct.
other measuring system, or you
And
can't
that
find a lot. You have to find a converter that's like, okay, I want a tire that's 35 by whatever. Tell me what size I should be looking for.
Mhm.
And it's never spot on, right?
And that's one of the problems I had when I was trying to replace my Nexans was the size I had was very rare at the time, because they had just started producing off-road tires probably,
Hmm.
like, 2 or 3 years about before that. But that's another thing too, you're limited once you start getting a bigger tire with the wheel size
Yep.
and all that.
Yep. When I changed the tires and wheels on the Cadillac, when I got it, it had 22-inch chrome wheels, and the tires had like, I don't know, 3 inches of sidewall. And I didn't really want that. I drove it like that because it had decent tires on it when I got it, so I drove it on them until they were. I figured when they were worn out, I would replace them with different size. When I replaced them, I wanted to go to a 17-inch wheel, so I had more sidewall because of the places that I tow to, like dirt parking lots, and sometimes the tow rig needs to get into like a weird situation
Right.
where it's not wheeling. I wouldn't call it that, but it's not a thing I'd want a 22-inch rim with a 3-inch sidewall, right? Trying to figure out what size tire and wheel I needed was a pain in the butt
Yeah.
because I was changing the wheel size. Ah,
So another thing with off-road tires is typically most off-road vehicles have 5 tires because the spare is a real size tire. It's not one of those, I don't
yeah,
know, we used to call them donuts.
skinny
And
spare.
yeah, so when
Yeah,
you're, a lot of people do a 5-tire rotation. Some people agree with it, some people don't for various reasons. And one thing I learned at the shop where I work is they prefer 4-tire rotation because the thinking behind it is once those tires wear out, you only need to buy 3 tires your next time if you're going to keep that same brand, and it will save you money. And then there's the other debate on you're extending the life of your tires by adding the 5th tire in
yeah,
every rotation. And I know in the racing world this doesn't happen really in the off-road world, but adding a tire into that rotation, tires that are already have some wear, when you add in a tire that has no wear, even though it's um like 1/32, I think my mechanics were telling me,
hmm,
it that tire is a sliver faster than the rest.
yeah,
In the off-road world, it probably is not going to make that big of a difference. But when you're racing, it's a
yeah.
different story.
So, I guess to boil it down, your tires are a certain diameter, right? If you were to measure around the whole tire,
Mhm.
it'll come up with a measurement, right? On day one, that'll be X, whatever. Say it's 100 inches. I don't know, the whole diameter. Um, Drive it for a couple of months, get a couple thousand miles on it, and it'll be down by some fraction of an inch, right? So a brand new tire to travel the same distance will have to spin slower, right? Yeah, it won't have to spin as fast as the other tire, right? And that, of course, has to translate somewhere.
Mhm.
That somewhere is your differential. So I could maybe make an argument that says having two very slightly different size tires, even if those are fractions of an inch, could add a little bit of wear and tear to your differential
Mhm.
because one side's spinning just a little faster than the other. In four-wheel drive, it could also add maybe some more strain on things like the transfer case because that's where everything joins together in the middle. If you have open differentials, this is going to be like no big deal at all because the differentials will just eat that up. No big deal. If you've got a limited slip or if you've got a locker or an auto locker, like that'll slowly but surely wear on that thing. I don't think it's enough that you're going to notice it. Like maybe you get a couple thousand miles less on the parts in your differential, but those
Right.
things go for hundreds of thousands of miles. Like those aren't
Right.
the thing that you're replacing frequently, right? Um, so yeah, I do a 5 tire rotation. Now I can say that you need all your tires to be at least close to the same size.
Mhm.
So if you put different brands of tire, even if they are the same measurement, different brands of tire at each corner of your vehicle, you will get very weird driving characteristics and you'll get bind in your drivetrain and stuff. That you definitely shouldn't do. But the
Right.
same tire that's just worn a little differently, maybe if you had one that had 30,000 miles on it and one that's brand new, that might be enough to be a problem, but I don't know. I've always done a 5 tire rotation.
Yeah, I
I
have
actually have the
too.
rotation inked on my wall in my garage with a Sharpie so that when I rotate the tires, I always do it in the same pattern.
Mhm. And there's different patterns depending 5-tire,
Yeah.
4-tire, crisscross, side to side, I don't know, there's different names for them. Um Anyway, I guess it's your, your preference, you're going to save money both ways, I would think. Whether you're going to buy 3 or whether you're going to prolong the life of them
You're
by adding the 5th tire.
you're gonna buy that tire eventually anyway. The
Mhm.
difference is whether you're buying it now, all of them now, or whether you're buying them later, right?
Mhm.
And it's up to you which way you want to do it.
Mhm.
But if you bought 5 tires today and wore 4 of them down, and then your future you is buying 4 new tires, and you rotate the brand new one in, you still need a spare. So do
Mhm.
you put one of the worn out tires on the spare? And if you do that, then next time you're going to have to buy 5 because all
Right.
of the tires are going to be worn out.
Right. And do you still want to use those same tires? Maybe you want to try some new tires, or
That's
maybe
that's the other
maybe
thing.
your brand doesn't make that size anymore and you're like, "Oh."
So 2 things to think about. One, I've never met an off-roader that uses the same tire every time they change tires. They always try something new. Maybe not always, but when your tires are worn out, that's the time where you're like, these are the things I didn't like about this tire. I'm going to see if I can find something that
Mhm.
solves those. Or you've upgraded and you need a bigger tire, right? Or your wheeling style has changed and you need to go to a more aggressive tire,
Right.
right? So it's very uncommon for an off-roader to keep the same tires the whole life of their vehicle, the same style tires. And the manufacturers might discontinue a line, they might change the design, and then at that point, is it still the same tire?
Right.
It's the same name, but if the design is different, is that the same as putting a different brand tire on? I don't think I'd want to take that chance.
Exactly.
So
All right.
there's a lot to think about, and people will argue about this until we're all dead and gone. So
Yep. And you know what? And that's what's so great about the off-road world. You can drive a Jeep, you can drive a Toyota, you can drive a Bronco, you could drive
and
whatever
and
kind you want, and
we can all argue about tires.
right, and you can pick whatever color you want of your vehicle, you can pick whatever axles or whatever you want. There's so many options, and it doesn't matter because it's your vehicle. You do what you want with it. And
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
you know what? I don't have to sit and argue with people like, "Oh, these wheels are better. This is what I like." You decide what you
There
wanna like.
there was a time that I was that guy, but we've talked about this before. I've
Right.
moved past that. There's If you don't want to do what I do, maybe you've got legitimate reasons for doing it. And who am I to tell you you're wrong?
Right.
If you tell me the sky's purple, I don't know, then I might argue with you because it's clearly not.
Well,
But
unless the sun's setting, sometimes it
maybe
may
you're
be purple.
colorblind and that's
Yeah.
why it's purple to you and it's always been
Right.
purple. I don't know.
Right. To each his own. To each his own.
Yep.
So, Google keeps signing me out. I keep having to sign in to the show notes.
I tell you what,
Ah,
Tammy and
I
her
know.
computer
I
problems.
know, I'm horrible. I'm awful with them.
So I think we covered everything we wanted to talk about today.
Yep.
If anybody has any comments about tire sizes or if we got anything wrong, please feel free to reach out. Um, like I said earlier, offroadinsiders@gmail.com. You can send us an email. We do check it. We'll even read it out on the air. We've done it before. We'll do it again. Instagram, Off-Road Insiders, and of course, offroadinsiders.com. We have a little bit of news to cover. Nothing big.
No.
I
Do
found
you
this one.
wanna
Did
Yeah.
you read the article that I linked?
I just was clicking on it.
I think it's really cool. Can-Am. So this is from Jalopnik. If you're not familiar with Jalopnik, they're like a off-road, not off-road. They're a car culture magazine,
Mhm.
right? Can-Am sent the author of this article, Elizabeth Blackstock, who is just an automotive writer, right? As far as I could tell, I did a very brief look into who she is and what she does. Seems like a very nice woman who just writes articles for Jalopnik. But Can-Am sent her out to King of the Hammers to witness the Can-Am UTV race because Can-Am sponsors the race. Can-Am always wins the race. Surprise.
Right.
Almost always wins the race. But they sent her out for just that race, right? And reading through this article, you can see what an impression the race had on her. I assume she's never been to this style of desert race because she even mentions how she was picturing something. It sounds more similar to a Baja race
Right.
where you're at a spot on the track, the cars go zipping by, and if you want to see that car again, you have to race it ahead to the next stop. right? Which is not like it's it sounds very stressful if you ask me. Reminds me of my days watching my sister run cross country, where it's like, okay, we want to see her over here, and then we have to go over there, and then we have to
Right.
go over here. Yeah, it's a pain in the
We
butt.
were the same, same.
But King of the Hammers is different. I guess it's similar but different because, of course, it's a big course where you have to go around. But she says it feels like a big party at all the stops
Right.
where you'd normally be watching the race. And this is exactly how I pictured King of the Hammers. I want to get out there some year, like I said, but this is exactly what I expected to hear about King of the Hammers.
I like how she says, "It was at Chocolate Thunder, though, that I truly came to understand the beautiful chaos of this event." I
Mm-hmm.
think that kind of like sums it up a little bit.
That it does. It really does seem to. So I encourage you to read the article. I read through it. I just watching this woman as she recounts like how she was introduced to this, and she even says that this is something she's going to come back and see again, and maybe experience more of the event in the future, which is
Right.
cool, right? I mean, there's like 6 races that she missed by only seeing the UTV race.
Right.
There's so much more
There's
she
so
could have
much more.
experienced.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Not exactly news, but it is a news article technically.
Um, I was looking through my notes or through my Jeep news. It says Jeep lowers prices in bid for more sales.
What?
Yeah. I just saw this article. I'm like,
You
"Oh my
mean
goodness."
wait, you mean the market has to eventually course correct and prices come back down again? You can't just keep charging 50 grand for a base model Jeep?
Yeah, Jeep's new boss lays out plans for the Stellantis brand to regain lost sales and market share by adding new products and cutting prices on many existing models. So,
Don't get me wrong. I love my Jeep, and I have a definite affinity for the Jeep brand, specifically the Wrangler.
mhm,
But the latest stuff that I've seen coming onto the lots with the Wrangler and from Jeep in general,
mhm,
I'm a little disappointed. Not just at the price point, but at the complexity and at the yes, they're probably still one of the most capable because now we have the Bronco to contend with. One of the most capable vehicles that you can buy off the lot and still go wheeling with. Um, but there's so much. They really lost what the Wrangler was. It
mhm,
was always such a simple vehicle that was
right.
designed to be like a go kart that had enough creature comforts that you might want to drive it to work.
It's just too much fanciness. Is how
Yeah,
I,
and I get it. That's the market, right? They have a
right.
whole market of Jeepers, like this whole new era of Jeepers that are all about the lifestyle and the culture and not about the off-roading.
Correct.
And I mean, they're selling them hand over fist, so they're doing something right. I just feel like the iconic Wrangler that we used to have is gone. I don't know if we'll ever get it
Mhm.
back. You might have to get a side by side to get that feeling again.
Yeah. And Videos agrees Wrangler has gone away from its roots.
Yeah, they
Yeah, I
sell
agree.
they sell to the posers.
Posers.
I
Um,
I have trouble calling these people posers because the folks I see at the jamboree, they come into the sport totally unaware of what they're getting into.
mhm.
I've seen it
I
so many
did.
times.
I had no
They're
clue.
like they're like, I want an off-road convertible. What's this four-wheel drive lever? And by the time they go through a jamboree or they go through their first event, they're either like, this is not for me. I'm going to go back to driving on the street, or this is awesome. And then they come back 3 years later with an old CJ on 38s, you know?
And that's exactly, I mean, I just bought my Jeep because I wanted to have a convertible. I wanted to go topless. And I went and took a class with Kyle and I was instantly hooked.
Yeah.
And I love going off-road.
And this is why I love being involved with the jamboree and with guiding, because you meet them at that first step and you give them a good experience.
Mhm.
And if it's not for them, not for them. But I mean, the number of folks that I've talked to later where they're like, you had a hand in
Mhm.
keeping me in this sport. That makes me feel good. I love when I hear that.
And I know a lot of people out on the East Coast anyway, that have Jeeps, and they're all about the beach week and just cruising up and
Mhm.
down the beach in their Jeep,
Yep.
and they go to, Ocean City Beach Week or Daytona Beach Week, and that's what they do. It's, they have their little pop-up potty tents for when they're hanging
Mhm.
out on the beach, and I know there's a lot of them in, Texas near Corpus Christi, and
I heard that one
that's
gets wild.
oh, yeah. Yes, like, whoo. The
Like
meaning
to
of
the point where the
topless
police come.
takes on a whole new world. But anyway, yeah, there are the beach jeepers that, it's a
Yeah.
totally different culture than off-roaders or overlanders. You just have all your different little subgroups within the community of off-roading. So, anyway, I don't have any more news. Do we know what we're going to talk about next week?
We probably should have talked about this before we went live,
Yeah,
huh?
I know.
I was
Yikes.
looking at our list. Let me
I need to go back to
go
that.
find that quick because I had one in mind that I thought might work. Where was it?
Oh,
I don't know. I don't remember what it was.
well, it'll be a surprise. I think we had to do this
Yeah,
once before.
yeah.
Um,
There was something. What the heck was it? I don't remember. There was one I saw on here that I thought, yeah, we should talk about that, but I don't know.
well,
Well,
you'll just have
whatever. I don't
to,
want to speculate on live air. We'll figure it out, and we will.
yeah, and stay
We'll.
tuned to our Facebook page. We'll
Yep.
post up on there.
You'll just have to
Um,
watch us on social media, and
yeah,
you'll find out when we announce it.
and don't forget to share our podcast
Trail
with your
comms
friends.
videos going on about trail comms again. We should talk about that at some point. I just don't know if I'm ready
Yeah,
to get that done in the next 2 weeks.
yeah. That can be kind of. There's so much to talk about with that.
And there's so
You
many
know.
facets of it that I'm not familiar enough with. Like there's some people who depend on ham, and I don't know enough
Yeah.
about ham.
Right.
Like I can talk about CB, I can talk about GMRS. I don't really know much about ham.
And do you have a ham license? You probably don't even.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
I've never needed one, so I
Yeah.
never really bothered.
We might need to soon. That may be our only way of communicating because I heard on the East Coast. Did your phone go out in the whole big.
Oh, with the AT&T outage?
Yeah.
No, I don't use
Yeah.
AT&T, but that was a big deal. There were a lot of people that were out of service for
Yeah.
hours. It was, from what I
Yeah.
heard, it was hours they were out. That's crazy.
Because people don't have landlines anymore.
Mhm.
How are we going to
Mhm.
communicate when we have these attacks?
Look, I can really get on a soapbox about how we've taken the very resilient nature of so many of the networks that we depend on and centralized them to the point where they are a single point of failure again.
Mhm.
But I don't think this is the right show to go into
No.
that.
And we're almost out of time. Can you do
We
it in
are.
30 Can you do it in 30 seconds or less?
No, probably not.
Yeah, I didn't think so. But yeah, it does. It kind of makes me think maybe I should, but then I would have to get my kids to get ham licenses and get them ham radios because I'd want to communicate with them. And so,
So the thing I would say is if the world has gone to hell, no one's going to be checking if you have a ham license.
right. Well, true.
Just like
True.
all these people that buy gold and stick it under their bed so that if the economy tanks, they still have gold. If the economy is that bad that the US dollar has gone to nothing, ain't nobody going to care about gold. They're going
Right.
to care about bullets and food.
Correct. Right.
So
Right.
if you want to stockpile something, stockpile them.
Beans and bullets, people.
Yeah.
Beans and bullets.
So anyway. All right. So
All
we've
right.
successfully taken that 30 seconds and
Yes.
eaten it up. Ham license is not needed
Yeah,
for emergency use. There you
use.
go.
Okay.
There you go. No one's going to check it anyway. If the world's
No.
gone to hell
Right.
and we all have to depend on ham radio to communicate, no one's going to care if you have a license. Beans, bullets, and
Bullets and
Band-Aids.
Band-Aids.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, folks. Well, this has been a fun show. Like I said, if you want to reach out, hit us up on social media. If you want to watch us live, you can tune in every other Monday, but you're probably going to want to check us out on social media to find out which Monday it is because we keep having to move it for reschedules and whatever. But yeah, every 2 weeks. Tune in wherever you get podcasts. If you want to listen to the show audio only, of course, we release this live stream as an audio show. If you prefer one format or the other, check us out on YouTube or on wherever you're getting your podcasts. And if you want to find me, check out swbcrawler.com and Tammy's at jeepmama.com.
And I'm shooting a little stuff for reels to post
good.
reels. Yeah, I keep forgetting to do that.
That's what all the
reels,
kids are doing,
I
right?
know, reels. reels. All right, jeepmama.com, folks, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah. Have a great one, folks. We'll catch you next time.